Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn. It's a new day, it's a new life. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.
Welcome to round 6 of the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. We've taken a quick 1-week break after our first road course of the season, and we're right back to the action with the Friday night trucks. It's the first short track of the season, Iowa Speedway. Are we going to see the elbows come out tonight in the classic beatin' and bangin' style of racing? Only time will tell as we get ready to strap in tight for all of the live action right here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth tonight is Scott Shive. Behind the scenes is our director, Eddie Smith, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And I gotta say, Scott, I'm really happy to have you here in the booth with us tonight for the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. It's our first short course of the season. We're here at Iowa.
I am also excited to be here tonight, Joey. Iowa is an amazing track. Last week we came off Watkins Glen, a technical road course all the way up in New York, but now we are in Iowa. We are at a short course. We are at a short style oval. This mile is tricky. It is a difficult track. You know, we'll see guys rounding out the bottom in 1 and 2, up in the middle in 3 and 4, and as we go on, our groove will move up and up. But tonight, I know it is going to be nothing short of an absolutely fantastic race, Joey.
Well, and you were talking just about a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, was Watkins Glen, the first road course of the season, so we're really getting quite a bit of difference here in the schedule. We started with the Super Speedway of Daytona, then migrated to a shorter track, albeit a newer one at Phoenix. You see all of these winners over here on the right-hand side. So Daytona, Phoenix, Dover, Miami, Watkins Glen, they are all done. We've had 5 different winners in the 5 different weeks that we've seen racing so far. We're here at Iowa, and then we've got Kansas, North Wilkesboro, and Atlanta. That is the remainder of the regular schedule before we get to what is kind of the postseason, the playoffs, whatever you want to call it, where the guys are really fighting it out for all of those available points on the racetrack. And because it's Friday, we also have a spotlight. This week, it's Jim Kaufman. Jim served in the U.S. Army for 10 years and 3 months. During his time in the Army, he was a member of the world-famous Golden Knights, where he won a total of 14 national and world championships. He also participated in the world record jump in 1993. Outstanding, Jim. And if you don't know who the Golden Knights are, if you guys have ever been to a racetrack or a big facility and they have the Army come out there and do the parachute jumps, basically land on the racetrack, that's what the Golden Knights are. So they tour around with a lot of the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds. Really, really cool what Jim Kaufman has done out there. Awesome to have you racing with us here at Goat Locker Racing Series. Well, we talked about the tracks. We brought up Jim. That means it's time for the championship here, Scott, and you've got the points for us.
Yes, we've got Jonathan Cofield leading it up with 134, not closely followed behind Jeremy Gardner with 131 points. We'll see 4 of our 5 winners are in that top 4. Then down there is Daniel Cunningham, our 5th winner. One thing I'm loving about this, Joey, is just the diverseness of the tracks is varying such of our winners. We've seen 5 different ones, and we're at a different track today. So I think for our championship fight, this is going to be absolutely amazing with the difference in tracks and drivers and how they work, and why we're seeing these points so close. Our top 10 are only 20 or 18 points apart. So because of all of this, all of these diverse tracks, these drivers, our points are so close. It is coming to an excellent championship fight, Joey.
Well, and it's so cool. We've had 5 different winners in the 5 races. It's round 6 here, so we're about to see if we're going to get number 6 or not. And I have a feeling that if we get a 6th winner, these points, they're continuing to just kind of stay all grouped up. It's fantastic to see, especially from a commentator, from a viewer. Everybody has some skin in the game. They are out there racing and talking about the cars, I should say trucks, that we are going to see here tonight. I call them the Rumbly Boys, the V8s, over 650 horsepower out there. They've got the 4-speed dog box transmission, front engine, rear drive, and the thing to note, they are heavy, almost 3,500 pounds. And if you like the action that you see here on the screen tonight, well, if you log on to iRacing, you can go race them yourself in that NASCAR Trucks Class C series. So go out there. If you like the tight racing we're about to see here at Iowa, you can go out there and do it yourself. And I think that's actually going to bring us to our official track graphic here. Scott, give us a rundown of Iowa.
Iowa, the fastest short track on the planet, as we know. This is just short of a mile. It is 0.875 miles. It's almost, the back straightaway is the only straight part. It's a D-shaped oval style track. It's very momentum based. Even though it is short, we know with shorter tracks they are less momentum, but Iowa actually holds that momentum. We're going to see drivers driving different lines here today. It's got progressive banking throughout its corners through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we're going to see drivers moving around all day long today, and them being able to move around in this track is going to create phenomenal racing, side-by-side battles, and battles for the lead, Joey.
It is a classic short track that you said we are going to take up every single lane on the racetrack, so it is going to provide non-stop action, and the action that we will see here tonight, right? Let's get to it because the drivers are going to be starting qualifying, but we're going to be doing 115 laps here at Iowa tonight, so these drivers are going to be strapping in for quite some time. There's not going to be any spare car available to them, so you got to keep the damage to a minimum. And then, as always, 2 GWCs available, and we're getting the shots of all of our competitors. I should say some of our competitors inside of their sim rigs, giving us the shots of not only inside of the trucks, but kind of inside of their rigs. I always love Patrick Drabick's rig. I remember, Scott, you weren't here a couple weeks ago, but he was talking to us about that rig, and he's actually got the roof and everything, I believe, off of the number 7 Xfinity car there.
Well, that's sick. I want that on my rig. I don't have anything near as good as Patrick there, but that is sick. You know, personally, I need to buy me some of that merch from the Cup Series guys. Those bodies. I need some of that because that sounds awesome.
Well, and I also want to give a quick shout out because I know that we've got some special guests joining us here tonight that are kind of watching along on their screen. So if you are in any way familiar with Jam Printing and Promotions, I want to say thank you very much for tuning in tonight, especially Amber and Jerry. I know that Jerry is an Air Force vet and they're watching there with Amber's parents tonight. So want to welcome everybody here to Podium Esports and the final 20 seconds of practice before we get into the qualifying session here and all of the racing gets starting on track. So thank you very much, Amber, Jerry, everybody involved with Jam Printing and Promotions. And it's pretty much gonna wind it down right here, and we are going to kick over to qualifying, and that means the trucks are pretty much going to be reset on pit road here, Scott. They're going to have 2 laps available to set that fast time, or 5 minutes to kind of watch everybody else go do it themselves.
It's going to be interesting to see how these guys run their different lines. We've seen around here the time to go is about a 22.5 around this track. We're going to see that time vary here, but again, we talked about it. There's a lot of different lines to run throughout this track, as we'll see our first man out on track here. So we're going to see different lines as we'll have Jamie Barkas there up on track, the number 15 car, warming up his tires, getting ready to go. Like you said, he's going to have 2 laps. Excellent looking truck there. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of different lines these guys run. As we said, this track, you're able to run the top, the middle, the bottom. So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys choose, as we'll now see the 39 of Brandon Evans.
As everybody kind of warms everything up, gets it all started, and just want to remind everybody, you know, Goat Locker Racing Series, it is a very cool place to come and race. Veterans, first responders, military, family, all of it. You are welcome here to come and race, and trust me, it is some incredibly packed competitive racing. Not only that, but they try to make quite a bit of things happen for their members in the real world. And I know it's not necessarily something we were prepared here for tonight, but a couple weeks ago, if you guys weren't familiar, Goat Locker Racing and Aero McLaren actually gave away a racing simulator to Warren Clayton, part of the Marine Corps veteran and transportation specialist team. We couldn't be more proud to welcome him to the Goat Locker Racing family. So really big things both in the virtual world and in the real world. Really cool to see as Brandon Evans completes his qualifying lap. And Scott, you could really see him using all of that racetrack like you were saying, and then even kind of taking that autocross line, the shortest distance to the start-finish line.
Well, he'll put it 3rd on the board as of right now, that number 39. A great lap from him, a 22.8.3, as now we'll see the number 15 of Jamie Barkas go top of the boards with a 22.755, as now we're watching the 99 of Brandon Wallace getting ready to take his lap in that red number 99.
I just want to correct myself. It was Clayton there who works at Aero McLaren, but it's right now Roofing and Goat Locker that did provide that simulator over there, and it is really cool what Goat Locker is doing, always helping out their members, and doesn't matter where they work, whether it's over at Aero McLaren or just basically around the neighborhood here, as we watch Brandon Wallace go down the back straightaway and go through 3 and 4, trying to complete this lap. And I'm actually looking, we're winding down here in qualifying. You got to get these lap times in.
You've got to go ahead and go. There's not really any sitting around time. These guys are getting ready to go. We've got about 80% of our field has gone ahead and put their qualifying laps down as we've got Brandon Wallace now in his second lap. He'll run the middle line here now. He ran up in the top just on that last lap, but now he's run the middle up near our Geico restart zone. We're going to see what lap he'll put down here, see if it was any better for him in that 99. It was better with a 22.959. That'll put him 13th on our charts, Joey.
Well, as the rest of qualifying is wrapping up, what we're actually going to do right now is have a special national anthem performance by Navy veteran Jared Ashley.
At the twilight, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jared Ashley, for that performance. And we have our official starting grid for the Goat Locker Racing Series presented by Jam Printing and Promotions. It is the number 42 of Jeremy Gardner. Your pole sitter, Jamie Barkus, is going to be lined up next to him on the front row in second place. Jonathan Cofield in third, Daniel Cunningham in fourth. Patrick Drabick rounds out your top five here with Regis Clark sitting next to him in the number 8 car. Trevor McManus in seventh. Brandon Evans 8th, Stephen McDonald in 9th, and Ryan Pendleton rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, we'll have that 3 of Michael Kostick, the number 25 of James Kaufman. In 13th, Jamie Mullins. In 14th, Alan Marshall. Then in your back half, we'll have the number 99 of Brandon Wallace, the 75 of Charles Feltz. In 16th, in 17th, James Goshen. In 18th, that 36 of George Jewell. In 19th and 20th, Doug Ellingson and Timothy Stubblefield.
Then we got Matt Knights back here in 21st, Kyle Plumstead in 22nd, Mark McCrary in 23rd, Tanner Bethay in 24th, and Jamie Perkins is going to round out our 25 truck field here at Iowa. And just want to thank Jam Printing and Promotions. Couldn't do it without any of the help from all of our partners. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. Pace car lights are out here, which means the number 42 on the bottom lane of your screen, that is Jeremy Gardner, is going to be in control of the field here. And I take that back since it is a short track. Classic noob over here with me, road racing specialist. We do 2 pace car laps here at Iowa, don't we, Scott?
Yes, we always do it. Short tracks, it is always 2. Intermediates, it is 1. But you know, it's always different, Joey. iRacing is just amazing, but they do like to switch it up on us all the time. Honestly, I love that. I love a great variety. I love all the different things that iRacing does, that Goat Locker does, and all of that. We'll get into our race analysis right here, Joey.
115 laps, 2 green-white checkered attempts, no fast repairs available, and it is a custom fixed setup, so everybody is on the same equipment out there. It is all up to you and how to understand how this truck drives around this short track and then essentially maximize those skills for the quickest lap time around and hopefully collect the checkered flag. And it's all up to the 42. Barney is already waving the flag. We are green here at Iowa Speedway for round number 6 of the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, and it is the 42 with a nice hole shot, leads the field down off and through 1 and 2. It is the 53 of Jonathan Cofield battling with the 15 of Jamie Barkis as we enter turns 3 and 4 on the first lap. All of a sudden, we have a little bit of gap here between Gardner and Cofield. We're looking at the 07 of Patrick Drabick here, right in front of the 08 of Daniel Cunningham, and we're just getting everything working out on lap number 3. It is the first short track, and Scott, I know that this is your first race here with Goat Locker Racing, but typically what we see is a lot of clean green flag runs here. These guys, when they do mix it up, it tends to be just a little bit of fender rubbing, not all-out wrecks.
That's what we love to see, Joey. I absolutely love to see some clean, hard racing. It's always great to see these guys. We'll see the number 9 of Trevor McManus right here trying to attack the 08 of Daniel Cunningham, one of our winners in our past weeks, trying to get this position just right on his bumper as we'll watch this great battle. The number 9 will send it in, and it actually looks like he loses a lot here, but he'll have tons of momentum and will come back to try to get that 08. But I haven't been here long, but I've heard it's some excellent racing here in the Goat Locker Truck Series, and I'm absolutely excited for everything we're going to see tonight as we've got a caution on the speedway.
Yeah, looks like it might be the 82 car here. As we get Alan Marshall turned around, the 22 is stopped. Great job of avoidance by the 22. Sometimes it's a bummer to come to a stop in the middle of the racetrack, but it's just what happens. It looks like the 82 did, in fact, get a little bit of help here going into the corner. Check out the number 25 here, Scott. I think he gets into the bumper.
Well, you just talked about how clean they are, and the 25 just misjudged it a little bit. That 82 hit the brakes as he was trying to go to the bottom. That, wow, big slam there that gave the 82 the rest of his damage. You'll see the 22 there of Kyle Plumstead just narrowly avoiding that, but you'll see, as we'll see online here with on board with the 22, as we'll see the 82 up there just gets tapped by that 25, nowhere to go, gets slammed there by one of our cars, and the 22 barely avoids it. So, wow, we're going good. The 22 is probably has a fresh pair of pants, but he's got a clean truck.
That he does. That is important always. You got to keep on chugging along. And I do want to say, yeah, we've had a couple speed bumps here at the beginning, getting everything rolling, and just happy to be here at Iowa. I know that we've had an early yellow flag here, but we can kind of take a break. I shouldn't say take a break, but take a breath here, Scott, and kind of catch our breath over here. It is still Jeremy Gardner leading the way, right? It's Jonathan Cofield in second place, Jamie Barkis in third, Patrick Drabick fourth, and Daniel Cunningham. That rounds out your top 5 right now, and all of those competitors, they pretty much started inside of the top 5, albeit just shuffled up a little bit here since the early yellow came so early. We don't have any takers down pit road, so that strategy card, all of those sets of tires, they are still waiting for the drivers on pit road.
They've got 3 of those sets, Joey, and I'm not surprised no one has used them yet. Strategy is going to be big out here on this track. We know that Iowa can be a cheese grater. We talked about the difference in the progressive banking and the difference of lines. I also do know about this track, Joey, that that top line, while it has good momentum, it does save your tire a lot more than the bottom line does. So I would not be surprised if, although the bottom in 1 and 2 is the faster line, if we see a lot of guys moving up as a strategy call to save that tire, because again, we only have 3 sets for 115 laps. And I know that sounds like a lot, but 40 laps on one of these sets of tires, man, the fall off will be nuts.
Well, and to kind of talk about that a little bit more, since the pace car lights are on, basically when you run the top groove, you're not turning the steering wheel as much, right? So you're not asking as much tire scrub out of the front tires, but there's other factors to involve, such as absolutely no kind of cushion up there. If you make a mistake, you are smack in the wall. So even though you might, quote unquote, save a little bit of tire running the top lane, just that error room up there, there is nothing. And so you have to make sure to hit your marks every single lap. Otherwise, you're going to be ending up with damage on the truck. And I think a lot of the drivers, they're going to probably take more of the Atlanta Kevin Harvick route, where you lift early, go all the way down to that yellow painted line, somewhere where you can kind of control your own destiny.
That's a great reference. I know exactly what you were talking about in my mind. I think I saw that moment. I think the other day on my phone. I was on TikTok scrolling along, and I think I saw that moment by Kevin Harvick. But that would be a great idea by some of these drivers to take that idea from Kevin Harvick to save some tire, but also try to continue to be fast, as I think we're about to get going here.
The lights are out, and you see the pace car hit pit road, so it's a familiar position for that 42 of Jeremy Gardner. He stands on the gas with another nice launch down into turn number 1. The 53 of Jonathan Cofield is, in fact, going to close the door on Jamie Barkas there, coming out of turn number 2, and he actually smacks the wall up on the exit. He keeps the momentum, and this is the 07 of Drabick versus McManus. This is the 2-lane, Scott, you were just talking about. Drabick in the white and orange car taking advantage of that momentum.
Drabick trying to get around that number 15 of Jamie Barkas. He has that momentum, but that 15 has a fast line on the inside. The 07 and the 15 still side by side. He's going to get a bit of an air shove from the 9. Will give him a little bit more momentum. Maybe he can clear the 15 here. He can. Will the 15 have a run on the inside? No, he won't. The 07 of Patrick Drabick will take third.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but that number 9 of Trevor McManus had a huge wiggle, a huge loose moment coming off of turn number 4, and was actually pretty loose coming off of turn number 2 there as well. So Trevor McManus, always one of our fastest competitors, but using the top lane of the racetrack. And Scott, you were saying that you can save tires up there. It doesn't look like McManus is saving anything.
No, he is absolutely gunning it into turn 1 there, trying to get past the 15. The 15 of Jamie Barkas is falling now. He's back to 5th. Started 2nd here, so he's dropped 3 positions. Still trying to make some ground up on the inside as we're on board here with that number 9. As you can see how close to the wall they get, even here on the straightaways. That number 9 will take that position, but the 15, yet again, diving in on the insides. We'll see him just to the left there, trying to take back 5th. But Trevor McManus is powerful on the outside and will finally take 4th.
I think it's just going to be the back and forth, the ebb and flow of that top lane versus the low lane. And remember, we were talking about the tires saving being up top, but really only time will tell, because if it can save a tire, it's still up to the driver to actually go up there and do that. They have to drive smooth enough, they have to drive calm enough in order to take advantage of that lane. And I tell you who's taking advantage right now is this 53 of Jonathan Cofield. He's been on the back of Jeremy Gardner, but he's closed it in here in the last couple laps, and all of a sudden, our winner back a couple races ago, Jeremy Gardner in Miami, has his mirrors full, and the 53 is going to poke his nose down to the inside. Here comes Cofield.
The 53 there of Jonathan Cofield is going to try to take first away here on the bottom, but that 42 of Jeremy Gardner will have that run on the top, as we'll see him running away. But that 53 is not done. He's been running that bottom, ringing that bottom, able to get the position here on the 42. Will he slide up and clear him? Yes, he will. Does the 42 have enough momentum to pass him back again? No, he doesn't. New leader, the 53 of Jonathan Cofield.
What I'm really interested to see here is that the 53 made the pass for the lead on the low lane. And remember, we saw Drabic go by on the top side. We saw McManus in the number 9 car go by in the middle groove. So I wonder if the 53 maybe has just put in that extra little bit of practice time and has this racetrack and the setup kind of figured out. Maybe knows something that everybody else doesn't. But I got to say, the 42 is right there with them, painting the yellow line, and the number 9 of Trevor McManus continues to work his way forward. I actually think he just got by Patrick Drabic in the 07, so even though we see the low line working for the 53 up front, the number 9 making an area of the racetrack work completely different.
It all depends just on driver preference here, especially when you have a fixed setup. You can learn that setup and everything it does, and whatever works best for your driving style, for you as a driver, is going to be what you're going to have to be accustomed to. We saw the 53 make that pass for the lead on the bottom, and now he has a almost half a second lead now over Jeremy Gardner. But we see the number 9, like we talked about, running this middle and this top line, and also making up time here, almost just under half a second of that second place car in the 42, Jeremy Gardner. So again, I think it's all just about driver preference and what you can drive best.
I'm always a sucker for all of the data that goes on with the timing and scoring, and I'm looking at the number 9 car, and he did a 23.3 last time by, right? Compare that to our 2 leaders, 23.4, 23.4. So if we're looking for speed on the racetrack, definitely the high line seems to be the one that's working the best right now. Is it going to pay off in the long run? We think so. Only time will tell, and we're going to see if Trevor McManus can keep up this pace, keep closing it in about a 1/10 of a second per lap on these leaders, as once again, he doesn't even want to look down at those bottom 4 lanes. He is committed to the top.
Well, he's decided what he wants to do. He knows that's best for him. But I can tell you right now that Trevor McManus is laser focused. It is so difficult to run that middle and that top line. Like you talked about, one slight error and you are in the wall and your day could be done. So I know that that number 9 of Trevor McManus is absolutely laser focused right now, as he's still a 10th faster than our 2 leaders. So he is slowly gaining to that back of that number 42, and that number 42 is dropping away from that 53, Jonathan Cofield.
Now this is the battle for what is going to be inside the top 5. It's Michael Kostic here and Jamie Barkas in the number 15 car. So 15 has given chase to the 3. Patrick Drabic also involved in this. And I got to give a shout out really to the entire top 8. I'm looking at timing and scoring here. I don't see a gap bigger than about a half a second between the entire top 8. We've got a small gap to Brandon Evans, and then once again, from Brandon Evans in 9th all the way back to James Kaufman, even Timothy Stubblefield in 20th. We just have 2 giant packs rolling the Iowa Speedway.
These drivers, we know that they are good. We know that they know how they can drive and what they can do. So I'm not surprised at all, Joey, to see them so close together. And this is what you talked about. These drivers, while we had the incident with the 82 earlier, these drivers are usually very clean. They're good drivers, and I think they're clean because of that. They know when to push the limits. They know when to back off. They know exactly what to do, and they are good. And that is why we see such excellent racing from these guys.
Still watching this battle for 5th place. It is Drabic, Kostic, and Barkas here all arguing over that 5th place position. It's really been the 15 of Barkas trying to get underneath the 3 here, and just the multiple lanes at Iowa, and we've only clicked off about 28 laps so far. So when we talk about a green flag fuel run, we are just in the very beginning stages of it here. And being a short track, now I don't know the exact fuel window, but I would assume these cars can at least make it to about lap 75 or so.
They can make it quite a while here, Joey. I'm not sure of the exact number either, and that's why we're going to just figure it out as we go. Some of these drivers I probably can assume have a bit of a better plan than us with their strategy, but we're going to see, are we going to get to green flag pit stops? As we'll see now, the 07 is trying to take back the position from the 9 of Trevor McManus. But we're going to see, are we going to get green flag pit stops? Are we going to get another caution that throws a wrench in somebody's strategy plans? what is going to happen. There are so many factors that can come in to the race today that can absolutely screw or help somebody out in the best way possible. So we're just going to have to see as it goes along, as we've got another great battle here. Patrick Drabick trying to get that position back for third.
It is good, close racing here throughout the entire field. I mentioned that there is a very, very small gap just behind this group, but this is the closest racing, and I can say that Brandon Evans is kind of closing it back in again. So we don't have 2 packs any longer. It is now 1 giant pack from first all the way back to about 13th or 14th place here, and right on board the car right behind Drabick. This is the number 3 car. I noticed that he's gone from being pressured by the number 15, and this might be a little bit of a strategy move. I never quite know how aggressive each one of these drivers are doing, but you can save the tires and you can say, hey, you know what, at lap 25 or lap 30, I'm going to change my pace. I'm going to crank it up to 11, and that's when I'm going to decide to actually go.
These drivers are going to choose depending off their strategies. But Joey, you talked about how close these drivers are together, and almost all of them are. But one thing I'm looking at, the leader, Jonathan Cofield, is ahead of Jeremy Gardner by 1.5 seconds. He has absolutely stretched out this field and is running away with it. And right now, what I'm thinking is does Jonathan just have that strong of a car and able to run that bottom so well? Or is he using up too much tire right now, and Jeremy Gardner in the pack might catch him later? That's something I'm very interested to see. But right now, Jonathan Cofield with a commanding lead.
Well, and to kind of touch on what you were saying here, Scott, I would be worried if Cofield was out front. Now, I know you weren't here with us a few weeks ago, but at Phoenix, Cofield won that race, and I know that Iowa is a different racetrack than Phoenix, but it's the shortest racetrack we've been to this year, so it might just be that this number 53 of Jonathan Cofield understands these smaller tracks, has a knack for them, and I would watch out if you are the rest of the field, because it's starting to look like you were saying, 1.5 seconds and growing. I'm seeing a 23.9 out of the 53. Jeremy Gardner also at a 23.9, so he's holding station right there, holding that 1.5 second gap, and not only that, but starting to put some of these cars a little bit further back, a lap down.
Well, we'll get into lap traffic now, and that can cause supreme difficulty because all these drivers do not want to go a lap down, as we'll see Jonathan Cofield take over that 82 that we saw in the wreck earlier. So, but hopefully for Jonathan Cofield, these guys are going to move right out of the way because he does not want to be impeded at all. He wants to continue to hold his 1.5 second lead over that 42 and continue to stretch out this field before we'll see pit stops, I imagine, coming up pretty soon. These guys are probably running low on their tires.
Well, and you know, I think that's an interesting strategy card here because you're right. I don't think you need to run a whole 100% fuel tank. It just depends on how much you abuse the equipment underneath and how much you take advantage of it. And it all comes down to those setups, right? And speaking of setups, got to thank Premier Racing Setups here as Drabick goes down to the inside. It's the longest running setup shop on iRacing. Established in 2016, they offer many different options to help take your sim racing career to the highest levels. With over 50,000 customers worldwide, they've got the tools for you to need to compete with the best. And a special thank you to them for donating setups for the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. Well, we have got some serious action on the track. Remember, it was the number 9 car that had run away, but it's the number 3 and the number 07 of Drabick that are arguing right now for the 4th place position. And it is actually that number 3 that has gotten by everybody. Remember, he was being hounded by Barkas. He was behind Drabick, and now all of a sudden, Michael Kostick finds himself in a nice and tidy 4th place position with some nice clean air to go run down that number 9.
He didn't have a stellar qualifying, the one that he wanted, but you know, maybe that number 3 of Michael Kostick knew exactly what he could do. Just run this bottom, use that momentum, not use up too much tire as he's saving these guys, and now they're going. And all these guys that have maybe run the bottom earlier than him or run that middle, use their right front. This guy, number 3, Michael Kostick, is now running through the field up 7 positions. from when we started now, currently in 4th. So the number 3 absolutely running through this field and trying to track down that number 9 of Trevor McManus. Trevor McManus has slowed down just a little bit though, Joey. I imagine he's abused his right front just a little bit, running that middle line and just getting in there very strongly. But how about that number 3?
Well, and while we kind of have just a little bit of a lull, let's talk about this strategy. Let's talk about the comers and goers that we've seen on the racetrack, because we're talking about the number 3 here, up 7 positions, right? He is, in fact, our biggest mover of the race. I actually see a little further back in the pack here, Mark McCrary, who is currently battling with Chuck Phelps in the number 75. Well, Mark in this number 83 car, he is up 7 positions as well, and if he can get by Chuck Phelps, who's on the top side, that would make him the biggest mover, +8. So it doesn't matter if you're battling for the top 5, Scott, or back here in 14th or 15th at the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, you are going to be racing.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that number 75 of Charles Phelps is fighting on the outside of that number 83. The 83 has the position here, gets a little loose off the corner there, and that gives Chuck Phelps just a little bit of an edge here, trying to hold that position, but the 83 will slide up, clear that 75, and take that position away, and that will make him now our biggest mover of the race. That 75, not quite done yet, but Mark McCrary wants to be done with that 75 and continue to move forward and put the 75 in his rear view, as we'll see him moving up now 9 positions now, excuse me.
Let me tell you, I know that if I was racing against this number 75, being a little bit of a tall, scrawny guy, I do not want to mess with Chuck Phelps at all. I feel like I would give him probably an extra lane of racetrack wherever he wanted, because looking at him and those biceps, I feel like he could probably pick up the steering wheel and throw it through the screen and hit me if I did something wrong to him on the racetrack. But it's always fun to see all the different characters out here in Goat Locker Racing Series, including Chuck Phelps. Always loving seeing the number 75 go racing out here. We were talking about comers and goers. Scott, one of the drivers that I always tend to keep an eye on, and he's kind of sitting mid-pack right now, is the number 39 of Brandon Evans. Actually just made a move around Jamie Barkas here for the 7th place position. And the reason why I bring up this 39 all the time is that he is the poster child for just hanging out, taking it easy in the first half of the run, and then all of a sudden those tires in the truck come alive and he just drives through the rest of the field. I'm looking at his last lap time at 23.9. He is the fastest truck on the racetrack.
We saw earlier, you talked about all the guys being close, and we said that we had 2 packs. Well, the number 39 of Brandon Evans was the leader of that 2nd pack, and he had about a 2nd in between the first leading pack, and now we've seen him, I believe that was back in when he was in 12th, around 15 laps ago. Now he's up to 6th, now trying to get to the back of that 07 of Patrick Drabik. And that 39 is absolutely charging through this field. We saw him get past the 08 there with a nice shot to the rear bumper into turn 1. Gave that 08 a little bit of a shot there, and the 39 took 6th position. But you're absolutely right. He sat back in the first half of this race, first half of this stint, rather, and now he is moving through the field with the fastest laps of the race.
And in the first kind of handful of weeks of the Goat Locker Racing Series, I feel like Brandon Evans wasn't really able to capitalize on this tire-saving strategy, but it also has to come down to the tracks, right? The competitors, everything has to fall into place, and I feel at Iowa Speedway, this is a great example of a track where this strategy can really pay off, that it's a short track, and you strap into these trucks and you want to go racing, right? You got all your buddies out here, you want to throw the nose in, you want to make passes, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, you got to be fast over the entire stint length. And right now, it just seems like the number 39 is on fresher tires than everybody else. But I'm telling you, it's the same life. He has just managed to save them that little bit better.
I can tell you, Joey, saving tire is so much easier said than done, as we'll see the 39 trying to get past Patrick here, trying to get down on the bottom, but the 07 of Patrick Drabik is just holding that line, able to block the 39 well. So we see the 39 now try the top, try to get some momentum to get around the 07 here. But again, it is so difficult to save tire in a race like this, as we've seen now the momentum, the 39 running up to the back bumper of the 07, still trying to make something happen here, trying to get past him, trying to break into that top 5. But he has just done tire saving better than anyone else in this field.
Well, and actually directly in front of them that we're getting the shot of right now. So the 3 and the 9, this is Kostick and McManus arguing over third place position on the racetrack. So we've got a couple battles, and in fact, here goes Brandon Evans on the low side. Is he gonna clear? Doesn't look like he's gonna clear Drabic, so it'll be a drag race down the back straightaway. And you were saying that the 39 went to the top side. I don't think he wanted to be on the top side, just that the 07 is doing kind of his best Ryan Newman impression right now, is that if you want to pass me, I ain't going to lay down and just let you by. You're going to have to earn it.
We had a bit of a lap car in the way there with the 68. Messed up the 39 there, allowed the 07 to get back by on the outside. The 39 had to check up, but I think you're right. That 39 doesn't really want to be on that top. We've seen him running the bottom, being able to use that momentum by braking earlier, using that Harvick line. Now he uses that momentum on the top to slingshot past the 07, but the 07 will now try to do the same thing, as we'll see him try to do a bit of a iRacing side draft. It won't exactly work. The 39 will finally get the position, but the 07 tries to shove it down to the inside, and he won't. The 39 finally takes 5th away from Patrick Drabic.
Want to say thank you to the Veterans for Life Foundation. The goal for Veterans for Life Foundation is both to revitalize communities and supporting military veterans and their families' successful transition back into civilian life. Through support services, counseling, and education, they provide permanent, affordable housing to veterans and their families. A huge thank you to Veterans for Life Foundation. So, we are coming up here actually to about halfway. We've actually just, I believe, clicked over halfway, and this is Jamie Barkas. It seems like the strategy cards have started to fall, so a lot of the drivers not using up that full fuel stint, instead opting for that fresh tire, gonna try to get that track position early. And actually, what we're seeing here is Drabic take all 4 tires on pit road and then get back launched. I am going to be looking at his pit stop time, 14.1 seconds. Barkas back here at a 14.3. So Scott, that's going to kind of be our baseline of what 4 tires and fuel is going to be.
That is a fast one. We're going to see how it holds up to everyone else. But we've seen these guys. They've gone 60 laps on these sets. They've cut it just about in half. So we're going to see just about the same thing we've got here. These cars will still have 2 sets left in the pits, as we'll see that number 9 of Trevor McManus currently in 10th, now in his pit box. And we're going to see what he'll do here. But again, as we've got caution in the middle of tire changes, in the middle of pit stops, we've got caution, Joey.
Talk about throwing a curveball in the strategy, and unfortunately was the number 15 of Jamie Barkas. I believe that he was leaving pit road at this time, so the 15 spun around on the back straightaway here. Scott, we're going to get a podium replay.
Wow, as we'll see what happened here. The 15 just coming up out of the corner, just gets loose. Those tires weren't quite warm enough yet. He had just pitted, and he spun out on the back straightaway, exiting pit lane. This is going to cause mass confusion, Joey, for us and these drivers. We had about 30 or 40% of our field pit, about 10 cars or so, and now we're going to have to figure out what the heck is going on, because now we'll see the 53 of Jonathan Cofield and that 42, our leaders, coming down onto pit road. Anyone else who hasn't pitted is now going to come down, but this is going to change it up for real, Joey.
Oh, huge, huge. And I think the biggest point right now is that we are under yellow flag. So when you come down to pit road, don't overshoot your box here. You've hard earned all of that track position out there. So make sure not to slide through it and carelessly lose all the positions, as the 53 does get stopped. As the 42 slide through? No, looks like all top 3 cars there nice and tidy into their box. And to kind of touch on what Scott was mentioning, we had about half of the field come down pit road, and that's usually not that big of a deal, but at Iowa Speedway here, you actually lose multiple laps. I was seeing one, maybe even 2 laps that you lose, so I'm just as confused as you, Scott. We're just going to have to wait for timing and scoring, wait for the pace car to pick up the leader, and see kind of how the field plays out.
I don't know. And we're going to have to wait for our sheets, like you said. But golly, this is going to get confusing because we had Jonathan Cofield, Jeremy Gardner, Michael Kostick, Brandon Evans, all these guys leading out front. But then we had some people come down and pit. And while those guys were able to stay out after they pitted, you know, all of our leaders that were out on track that hadn't pitted yet have to come down. And we're going to see how that cycles out with guys being a lap down, maybe 2 laps down. But golly, this has made this race, if it wasn't interesting already, which it was, it is now even more interesting.
I'm just waiting for everything to kind of settle out here. You know, the pace car is still picking up the leader from what I see, and we are getting some wave arounds out there on the racetrack. So I think some people trying to get back on the lead lap, but I can tell you as of right now, it still remains Cofield, Gardner, Kostek, your top 3 right now. Daniel Cunningham in 4th and Brandon Evans in 5th place. I think the big time losers out of all of this would have been Patrick Drabik back here in the 07. I think he's going to get the wave around maybe and get back on the lead lap, but he does not have fresh tires. Also, Trevor McManus back here, James Kaufman. All of these cars, they came down and took tires before that yellow flag came out.
So what I think we're going to see here, Joey, is that all the guys that were still out that hadn't chose to pit yet are going to be the beneficiaries from this caution by the spin from the number 15. So I think Jonathan Cofield, Jeremy Gardner, the number 3 of Michael Kostick are going to be set up here for a back half of this race.
Still got the lights on the safety car, so that means want to give a nice thank you to Cruisin' Classics, located in Columbus, Ohio. Cruisin' Classics has a beautiful 56,000 square foot showroom filled with hundreds of unique automobiles. There is something for everybody out of their hand-picked selection of muscle cars and hot rods. Come on down to the facility today or check out the website cruisinclassicsinc.com. And I don't know if you're a hot rod fan, Scott. What kind of classic or hot rod, maybe era of cars are you a fan of?
Oh, I am a huge fan, Joey. My favorite would be a muscle car. Personally, my mom, she drove a 1965 Mustang back in her day, and I actually have that car to this day, and it's actually mine now. So I'm a big muscle car guy, big classic car guy. What about you? I want to know.
You know, I like the muscle car, so I've got a 1957 Ford Thunderbird, which is definitely not a muscle car.
No,
it is definitely
not
a classic car, but yeah, I've got a fully restored 1957 Ford Thunderbird sitting in the garage that was my father's, and then I also have a 1988 BMW M5. That is my European classic car coming out, but we'll put those to side, talk about Cruisin' Classics later, because we've got the lights out on the pace car. They're coming down pit road right now, so it is all up to the 53 with Barney throwing that green flag. We are racing here one more time at Iowa Speedway as we click over to lap number 68 of round number 6 of the Goat Locker Racing Series.
Man, that 53 of Jonathan Cofield got an amazing jump on that restart. 42 of Jeremy Gardner trying to retain second here from the 3 of Michael Kostick. That 42 will hold that position, but that 3 is still strong. Now what I'm wondering, Joey, will the 42 be able to take back the lead? Remember, he started on our pole, and Cofield took it away from him within the first 10 laps. But will he be able to take it back now?
Well, I think we've got a different second half of the race, right? We've got cars, or trucks, I should say, that can make it all the way to the end on gas. It's just going to depend on how much you want to burn up now. Even though it is shorter than the first run, we still have 45 laps out here at Iowa. They're going to click by fast, but if you abuse the stuff early on, we've seen how much these cars can fall off. But here comes the 42. Gardner almost making contact with Cofield. going into turn number 3. You're right, Jeremy Gardner wants the lead.
And I'm wondering right now, is he being careful with his tires? Just like you said, he is on that back bumper of the 53 of Cofield, but man, is he using up his stuff right now? That's what I'm wondering. We've got 45 laps, just like you talked about. This is now a tire-saving race. These guys, unless there is another caution, do not have to go back in those pits, and if there isn't a caution, they won't. So, what you have is what you have, and if you use up your stuff now at this beginning, you won't have anything at the end here. So that 42 needs to be careful for sure, and I think he's backed off just a little bit, as we'll see him get a little sideways there, right behind the 53.
You're right, he had a big-time loose moment coming off of turn number 2, and when we're talking about saving your stuff for the end, and exactly what you don't want to do is put all of the rubber onto the racetrack rather than keep it on the tire itself. But 42 seems to have a very level head, and remember, he is also a winner at Miami. We've got another yellow flag. I'm looking through the field. I believe this one might be the 07. Oh no, I think Patrick Drabick might be involved in this one.
Man, his truck is absolutely destroyed. We saw him running in the top 5 all race long. We're going to figure out here what happens soon, but golly, that truck is absolutely smoked. Wow, interesting. I want to know what happened here, so we'll see what happened here, Joey.
This is coming through 1 and 2. Oh, I'm sorry, this is through 3 and 4. The accident happens in turns 1 and 2. Don't see any trucks immediately around. Remember, we saw the number 15 get loose. Oh no! I made a mistake there. Patrick Drabick just getting collected. I believe that might have been Chuck Phelps loose and perpendicular right in the middle of the racetrack in turn number 1. And you gotta feel for Patrick Drabick, he just had absolutely nowhere to go.
Man, that, as a driver, it is absolutely crushing because the 75 of Chuck Phelps spins there, and the 07 has absolutely no idea, and when he sees it, it is absolutely too late. Nothing he can do at all. Just so crushing as a driver when something like that happens, because you know there's absolutely nothing you could have done about it.
No, and talk about your race just turning upside down. You were saying it. Drabick was running inside the top 5 the entire race, and then he was one of those trucks that came down early before that yellow flag and got shuffled to the back, had to take the wave around, and then all of a sudden, you find yourself racing around a lot of trucks that you're not familiar with. You got to be aggressive. You got to make up the time. So, unfortunately, Patrick Drabick having a really good night. Now, not so much.
No, and we're going to see, great news is we get 2 drop races in our playoff championship style hunt here in the Goat Locker Truck Series. So hopefully for the 07, this will be one of those drop races for him.
And as we get everybody still on the racetrack here, everybody can still catch their breath just a little bit. The lights are still on, so it's Cofield, Kostek, Evans, your top 3. And actually, I'm pretty surprised that 39 of Brandon Evans, I believe he was running 4th or 5th on that restart. So keep an eye on that 39. I have a feeling that this is a bit out of his wheelhouse, right? He likes to save the tires, and now he's kind of put into a situation where he has to actually use the tires. So we're going to see if Brandon Evans can kind of play both sides of the fence here, see what kind of racing car driver he is, or we're just going to continue to see the 53 of Cofield kind of take off and run away like we've seen all night. Michael Kostek has always been a great challenger, but he just hasn't been up there to really challenge for the lead against the 53. But we're going to find out here. 38 laps remaining, and that's going to bring us to our final partner of the night here. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Redbeard Design Company. Redbeard Design Company is a brand design and creative agency out of Greenfield, Indiana. They do brand identity, illustration, advertisements, apparel, packaging, and posters. All of Goat Locker Racing's logos since day one are the creation of Redbeard Design Company. So when you see a GLR logo anywhere, you are seeing a Redbeard design. And speaking of red beards, I actually see that Jeremy Gardner pitted on that one. That was the 42 car. So this is really interesting. We're going to be going back to green flag racing here. Actually, no, the lights are still on, but Scott, the 42 as well as the 08, they've got fresh tires compared to everybody else.
Wouldn't have guessed it, and I believe the number 9 of Trevor McManus pitted along with them. He is right behind them, sitting in 12th position, but Jeremy Gardner will now line up 9th with fresh tires. Now, they pitted not too long ago. We saw our caution not but 10 laps ago where these leaders had pitted. But again, we talked about the huge difference it makes in a new set of tires and old. 9 laps on a set of tires is a tremendous deficit, and I would not be surprised here if these 4 come marching through this field. This might have been the thing that could get Jeremy the win here, because I think without this move, Jonathan Cofield absolutely stays ahead of the number 42 there, but a huge gamble here by Jeremy Gardner that just might get him the win.
Now, all my buddies are going to point and laugh at me, but I always say this, right? If you want to win a race and you're not the fastest car, you got to do something different, right? If you keep following the leader, that's all you're going to do all night is follow the leader. So you have to do something different if you want to try to win the race, and you know you don't have the fastest car. And green flag back in the air, so it's the 53 once again with an excellent jump from that low lane, but he drags along the 39 of Brandon Evans. He's going to get his elbows out. He's going to try to get the drive off of turn number 2. He's going to clear the number 3 on the low side.
Now that 3 is back on the outside, trying to have some momentum, as we'll see the 23 of Ryan Pendleton right behind them, waiting for one of them to make a mistake. Side by side here, the 3 and the 39, Brandon Evans and Michael Kostick trying to battle for this second position. Meanwhile, Cofield out with a nice lead, hopes these two keep battling. We'll watch Jeremy Gardner now already up to 7th from 9th from the restart.
Well, you nailed it. Cofield is loving what he is seeing in the mirrors. With side-by-side racing, they may be kind of holding station in terms of the lap time, but trust me, it is abusing the tires of those 2 cars. So the 53, plenty happy to see exactly that going on in the mirror. And you got to wonder, at what point does one of them say, all right, we got to get single file if we actually want to go up here and challenge Cofield? But as a racing car driver with a giant ego, I don't think either one of them is going to say, yeah, you take the lead.
Yeah, personally, it's very difficult to do that. As a driver, I do it sometimes, but again, that is so much easier said than done. We'll now see the 3 of Michael Kostick go ahead of that 39 of Brandon Evans. They worked it out themselves, and now they're going to travel here as we've got 3 wide action. We've got a spinner.
Yeah, this is Jamie Mullins, the 66. He was spun coming out of turn number 4, and there we get the yellow flag on the racetrack. And I can confirm for you, the 42 of Gardner was right behind the 66 here of Jamie Mullins. I don't think that there was any sort of contact coming up out of 4. I think the 66 just got loose.
I saw him going around, and for a second, I thought we were going to stay green. The 42 might have gotten him around there. Not sure. We'll get another angle here possibly, but we saw the 66 of Jamie Mullins spinning around there, right maybe off of the bumper of the 42. We're going to go back just a little bit here and see the full replay of what happened. But again, that 42 Jeremy Gardner right here riding along with him into 3 and 4. That 66 is that car on the bottom. Ryan Pendleton on his outside. 42 drifting up here, and no, okay, that 66 just got loose, and the 42 just barely avoids it.
And, you know, if there was any contact between the 2 cars, trust me, the 66 had already lost control at that point, so I cannot put any sort of blame on the fresh tires of the 42. He did a great job of checking up, and in fact, look at what this has caused, right? This was all because of that strategy call from Gardner. He is now forcing everybody, or I should say mostly everybody, down pit road to come and take those tires, because Jeremy Gardner had gone all the way through the field. What did he restart? About 12th, and he had made his way up to about 4th or 5th at that point.
He was gaining through the field so fast, and honestly, this might have been, again, the saving grace for Jonathan Cofield. We saw earlier that if the 42 doesn't pit and we stay green the rest of this race, I think that 53 of Jonathan Cofield has it. We saw a caution. We saw the 42, Jeremy Gardner, do something different. And now with another caution, he forces their hand. And now he gets the lead back, and we're going to see where all these guys line up. And how it's going to be different. We see the number 9, now he pitted with Jeremy Gardner, now he's in second. The 99 of Brandon Wallace, the 08 of Daniel Cunningham, now all in the top 5. The 75 of Charles Phelps, now in the top 5. It is absolutely crazy out here with this tire strategy, and I am loving it, Joey.
It's awesome. Like, we've had a lot of green flag races here at the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, and tonight, it's a little bit of a wild card. We've had some curveballs. We definitely have multiple strategies going on the racetrack, and hope everybody out there watching is enjoying themselves out there. I know that we've got some special guests watching us from Jam Printing and Promotions. You know, Amber and Jerry are out there watching as well as we ride on board with the 99 of Brandon Wallace back here, just kind of patiently waiting for these pace car laps to click by. And since we have had lots of strategy calls, Scott, let me pick your brain a little bit. Is there maybe a strategy that is standing out for you, or a driver that you say, hey, with 29, probably about 25, 26 laps to go once we get going green, I got my eye on that one?
Well, you know, we've seen Cofield lead almost this entire race, but again, we talked about it. Jeremy Gardner started on that front row. He started in our pole position, and he's made some great strategy calls. But besides them two, obviously, they've been our leaders this entire race. I'm looking at that number 9 of Trevor McManus, now lining up second, lining up on the outside of the 42. We saw him in the early portion of this race, fast on the outside, able to save his tire well. We saw that in that first run, he abused his right front just a little bit, but now maybe he can get his hands on that. I'm looking at the number 9 to be maybe one of the guys that maybe comes and steals this away from the big leaders there. But again, the 42 and that 53 are strong, but I'm looking at the number 9 of Trevor McManus.
Well, and as we have him here on the screen, I gotta wonder if Trevor McManus is maybe channeling his inner Bane right now, because he's certainly racing in the dark right there. He's got the lights on in the background, but he is all dark inside of his sim rig, just channeling that Bane focus. Gonna try to get to the front of the field out here.
He's coming for the win, Joey. He's coming for the win. I hide in the dark. I was born in the dark.
That's my terrible Bane impression. Hope nobody heard that. Of course, everyone heard that. But hey, look, I love the Dark Knight. Trevor McManus looking like Bane out there. Maybe he can take the lead here away and steal the win. I hope you like my Bane impression, Joey.
It was fantastic. It's exactly what we needed here. You know, we're coming to 26 laps to go. We've had such a busy race, you know, and a lot of times here in the commentary booth, it's tough for us to catch our breath and actually kind of just relate to everybody and call the action how we see it on the screen here. So hope everybody out there is enjoying the show tonight, and strap in because the pace car lights are off. We're coming to 26 laps to go. We've got the top 6 on a completely different tire strategy than the rest. So I have a feeling things are going to get really busy here at Iowa, and the 42 stands on the gas, rows up through the gears. We are racing one more time here. 26 laps remaining.
Now Jeremy Gardner gets an excellent restart. Trevor McManus now on the outside, but that number 99 of Brandon Wallace wants to take that position away, but he won't. Number 9 of Trevor McManus holds on to it. We're going to see how these guys are rolling, but Jeremy Gardner now out with a nice lead. I'm looking back to Jonathan Cofield now on the inside of number 8 of Regis Clark, trying to come through the field. He just pitted, has fresh tires. Does he have anything for these leaders? Caution out yet again.
Yeah, and this one, I'm trying to see exactly where it is. Maybe the 22. No, he's off the racetrack. Gonna have to check. Maybe the 64 here of Matt Knights was involved a little bit in the further back of the pack. And one thing that I noticed, Jeremy Gardner on those older tires, he was really able to run away from the rest of the field here at the beginning of that restart as we get the replay. And uh-oh, this is actually Michael Kostek. And if we remember, Scott, the number 3 car has been a vital role up front all night.
He has been absolutely amazing up front. Somehow he got shuffled to the back. It slipped through my eyes and possibly yours as well, but we didn't see how he got there. But yet, nonetheless, he was in the back. gets loose off of turn 4 here, keeps it clean, slides through the grass, does a little landscaping work. I'm not sure how Iowa Speedway will feel about that, but the number 3 of Michael Kostick, we've seen him strong all day long. Now in the back, luckily his truck is still clean, and we'll see if he can do anything here, but just such a shame for the number 3.
Well, and I don't know if you saw that on the replay. It was like tandem drifting trucks out of turn number 4. It was Kostek who went around, but Brandon Evans in that number 39 car had a massive power slide himself. So I think both of those trucks, they came down and had gotten those fresh tires. I think they were just trying to take advantage of every single last little bit of grip on the racetrack as we watch the 83 of Mark McCrary here. I believe he is getting his lap back, getting the lucky dog. And I was going to say the talking point of the 42 of Jeremy Gardner, and I mentioned he is on older tires compared to everybody else, but if we remember, it was very, very quick, that kind of green flag jaunt of only a couple laps. So even though it says 17 laps on his, you got to wonder, it's still pretty fresh. Is this the winning strategy call? Are the fresher tires behind fresh enough to overtake the 42?
That's the one thing that we're just going to have to look at, Joey. We saw earlier when Cofield was out in the lead, we saw that Jeremy Gardner pitted and had 10-lap fresher tires. Now that is just a little bit shorter, I imagine 6 or 7. Still a marginal difference between these tires. We didn't get quite a long enough green flag run right there to see how these two different tire strategies are going to mount up, but we're probably going to see it next. But I'm also interested to see which one's going to work out. But personally, right now, I'd want to have fresher tires. And right now, that's the 53. While the 42 had an absolutely excellent call earlier, he got an unlucky caution, and I think that put exactly what the 53 wanted right back into his hands. So personally, I want the freshies.
I think I'm there with you. I want the confidence of the fresh tires. It's just up to the driver in the 42. Can he get the job done? And we are about to find out as he steps on the gas one more time. Barney waves that green flag. He gets a nice hole shot headed towards turn number 1 here on lap number 95 at Iowa Speedway. The 42 really arcs it in through the middle of the corner, blocking a lot of that clean air for the rest of the pack behind. It is the McManus car, the number 9 there in second place. Daniel Cunningham in third, and then here comes the 53. Those are the fresh tires here coming on the low lane.
Absolutely charging up under Daniel Cunningham. He is going to take third position swiftly away and now sets his sights on that number 9 of Trevor McManus, now just 2/10 behind him. Again, I want the fresh set. He just moved up 3 positions in under 1 lap, and he is absolutely raking that bottom, gaining tons of time, almost 2/10 faster than these leaders. Jonathan Cofield is coming for that lead again.
We are going to see if the 42 of Gardner can hang on to it, if McManus can hang on to second place. And I got to say, I'm rooting a little bit for the number 9. We got to stay completely partial or, unbiased over here. But the number 9 is the only car in our top 3 that has not won a race yet inside the top 5. Jeremy Gardner, well, guess what? He won back at Miami. Jonathan Cofield, well, he won back at Phoenix. So the number 9 car is the only one inside the top 3 that is yet to find victory lane. It is going to be an uphill battle from here on out, though, with 18 laps remaining.
Well, that 9 is giving that 53 a very hard time here, and that is helping out the 42 of Jeremy Gardner. Them two battling back here is allowing him to get away, and that's what Cofield doesn't want. He wants to get by this 9 as quickly as possible to go out and get that 42 of Jeremy Gardner. But I'm with you. I like that we've had 5 different winners. I love that, and right now the number 9 is the only one in the top 3 who has yet to win, but I don't know. I just think the 53 and the 42 are very, very strong, and the number 9 just might be a bit offset here with those 2 cars around him.
I think if we were to look at the data of tonight's race, yeah, either the 53 or the 42, you got to circle those 2 as probably the fastest drivers on the racetrack tonight. They've proven it time in and time out, although there has been several others with a lot of speed, including this number 9 car of Trevor McManus. Remember how fast he was at the early part of this race where he really just burned the tires off. Well, guess what? With only 15 laps remaining, he can go and do exactly that because he doesn't have to worry about the back half of the run. He can just go out there and run those aggressive qualifying laps. That's exactly what he's doing, and he's holding off that 53 of Cofield. Jeremy Gardner, our leader, loving it.
Oh, he wants these guys to fight all day long. The 42 wants to run to an easy victory, but I don't think the 53 is going to let that happen. No, 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 the 42 will not be getting that here, but the number 9 also giving the 53 of Jonathan Cofield a hard time here. Now they're finally side by side. The 53 has some good maneuver here. Let's see if he can charge in on the bottom of Trevor McManus here, trying to take that second position. He's giving him some difficulty, but I think Cofield can do it.
And it's just kind of that right front wearing off of the number 9 car. You see him, he can't just charge into the corner and hold that apex speed as well as he could earlier. Now he still gets a good drive off of the corner, so the momentum down the straightaway really holds parallel with the 53, but once again, the 53 on the low lane just able to carry a little bit more speed every single lap. These tires tick off. The advantage is going to go to the 53, but as this goes on, I'm looking at Jeremy Gardner now up to 0.8 of a second and gapping.
I can tell you that 53 is absolutely annoyed right now. He knows that he is faster than Trevor McManus, and he wants to go out and get Jeremy Gardner, but the 9 is just not letting that happen right now. He wants second position, and Jeremy Gardner is absolutely clapping right now, hoping this continues on, because if it does, 42 will have that win. But if the 53 can get by, I think he can go get it. We're coming down to 10 to go here. Is there enough time for the 53 to get back to the 42?
I don't think so. I think that if the 53 clears McManus here, he might be able to race his way up to Jeremy Gardner, but judging on how difficult Cofield is having to get by this number 9 car, I just don't see a pass happening with how fast Gardner is. Remember, you got to catch him, and then once you catch him, passing him is something completely different, like what we're seeing right here. So if I was the 42, I'd be saving some tire right now just in case we get another yellow, just in case you got to do another launch on that restart and have to fend off all of these hungry wolves behind them. But you were saying 10 laps remaining. Well, here at Iowa at this short track, it clicks them off really fast. We're down to 8 to go.
I'm absolutely with you. These guys have been side by side for almost 5 laps now with no avail. Now the 53 clears him. The number 9 will slide him. Try the crossover. No, he will go back to the top. The 53 finally takes away the position. They're coming back to 7 to go. 7/10 difference between the leader and second place. Does Jonathan Cofield have enough time here? Is 7 laps enough, Joey?
Well, let's look at the data. Jeremy Gardner, our leader, 23.6 last time. Jonathan Cofield at 23.4. I'm looking at 0.6 of a gap. Yeah, it's already coming down 0.5 of a second. Let's check the lap times as they cross the stripe here this time. Our leader, a 23.7. Oh boy, here comes Cofield at 23.4, taking tenths out. Yeah, Scott, the race is on.
This is exactly what Cofield needed. We know he has those fresh tires, but the 9 was absolutely a crutch to him. And the minute that he was able to slide past Trevor McManus, he is now charging on Jeremy Gardner. 0.3 a lap that time too, 0.2 a lap now. 5 to go, and they're almost to each other's back bumper. Just a 0.2 difference between our leaders here. The 53 is after the 42.
It is going to be on for the race lead, and I can tell you that number 9 car, after putting up that huge fight to Cofield, he has fallen back. Ryan Pendleton already by him. Brandon Evans is about to get by the number 9 as well, so here we go. Down to 4 laps remaining. Cofield showing the nose down here into turn number 1, but it's all about the exit. The 42 is able to hold him off at a little bit of a stiff arm length. Once again, driving down to the low line in 3 and 4. We're seeing low line versus high line.
Side-by-side action here for the lead. We're coming to 3 to go. The 42, Jeremy Gardner, still holds it. The 53 is powerful on that bottom, but as we know, the 42 has the momentum on the outside. Can the 42 defend enough to keep this lead? The 53 has just a nose out front. What can the 42 do here? We're coming back to 2 to go, Joey.
And where did the 23 come from? Check out Ryan Pendleton. He is to the inside of Jeremy Gardner as we watch Cofield take the lead. So I have a feeling that if the 23 can get up there, he might be able to challenge the 53, but he's kind of stuck side by side with Gardner. Jeremy doing an excellent job to hold off Ryan Pendleton, but it is all in the hands now of Jonathan Cofield. He sees the white flag from Barney. He's got one more lap remaining here at Iowa Speedway. He's just got to put it together one more time by the 42 and the 23 still arguing for what is the second place on the racetrack. The 42 really trying to hold that top line down the back straightaway, but the 53 comes back on the fresh tires. He sees Barney. He collects round number 6, checkered flag for Jonathan Cofield.
And Ryan Pendleton takes second position by mere thousandths of a second. It was so close. 8 thousandths of a second, the difference between second and third position there. Wow, what a finish.
You can't even measure that. We'll have to see if we can get a photo finish here after the 53 burns it down, but talk about a different night for round number 6 here at the Truck Series. Let's listen as Cofield celebrates some victory donuts. A night of varying strategies shows the number 53 truck of Jonathan Cofield ultimately claiming the checkered flag. Could have come down to several different drivers, but the late race pit stop by Jonathan was able to give him the fresh tires, give him the speed that he needed to drive through the rest of the field and claim that victory. As we get your official results here on the screen, Ryan Pendleton, like Scott was saying, very, very close there at the line, just edging out Jeremy Gardner in that number 42 car. Trevor McManus was able to hold on to fourth after burning off that right front tire. Brandon Evans comes home with the top 5. Daniel Cunningham back here in 6th. Brandon Wallace up 8 positions, one of our biggest movers in that number 99 to finish 7th. Michael Kostek in 8th. Stephen McDonald in 9th. And Regis Clark rounds out your top 10.
Well, that number 66, who we saw spun earlier, of Jamie Mullins, comes into 11th. In 12th, we'll have the 25 of James Kaufman. In 13th, your 85 of James Goshen. In 14th, George Jewell. In 15th, the big man, 75 of Chuck Phelps. In 16th, that 92 of Timothy Stubblefield. In 17th, Mark McCrary. In 18th, the 64 of Matt Knights. In 19th, your number 15 of Jeremy Barkus. And rounding out your top 20, Joey, that 82 of Alan Marshall.
Then we have Doug Ellingson in the number 58. He was actually the last car to see the checkered flag, albeit 4 laps down. And then Kyle Plumstead, Patrick Drabick, and Jamie Perkins, they did not have good days on the racetrack. And then unfortunately, Tanner Bethea did not even start the race here, so gets that 25th place position. And wow, Scott, it was quite some race that we had going on. And this was that finish that you were talking about. Look at how close this was for second.
Man, you were looking at Cofield, and I was looking right at Pendleton and Gardner there. What an absolute finish. If you add one more car to there, it looks exactly like it did last week at Atlanta in the NASCAR Cup Series. What an absolutely stellar finish. I think Pendleton would have wished this was just for one more position, but what an absolute finish to come home second here at Iowa.
Well, since the drivers have hopped out of the race trucks, it looks like we've got our winner. The driver of the number 53, Jonathan Cofield, has joined us here. First of all, bud, congratulations on the second win of the season.
Woo, that was exciting right there, man.
So, I got to ask you, were you forced into that strategy call after the 42 came down and took the tires a little bit later in the race, or did you just say, I needed them at the end?
I don't know. When they pitted and took tires, we ran a couple laps there, and I think he had run a 22 uh, 6, and I was like, well, they're not but 2 tenths faster than us, but they're in sixth place. So we got another caution. Had to kind of look and see who I was on the lead lap, and luckily we come in and didn't fall through the field too bad. But thank goodness got a green flag run right there at the end, or it wouldn't have never worked. I don't think I was better on the long run than he was.
Well, was there any parallels between Phoenix and here? They are the two shortest tracks that we visited here at the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series, and you won Phoenix back there in January. You just won Iowa. Are you kind of a short track man?
No, I'm not a short track guy per se. I just like tracks that don't have a lot of banking where you gotta kind of ride the brake, wait on the truck. The setup was awesome tonight. A little on the tight side, just like I like it. Um, I'm not really one to drive a real loose. I know they say loose is fast, but I just can't do it. But s- setup was a little tight, which I liked. Just these flat tracks. Iowa's one of my favorites. Milwaukee Mile, New Hampshire. I really like places where you got to really wait on the vehicle to rotate and be easy with it.
Patience, right?
Yes, sir. Patience.
Well, looking at the remaining tracks on the regular season schedule, you kind of already put your foot down on the championship with the only driver to claim 2 wins so far. Kansas, North Wilkesboro, and Atlanta. I have a feeling you like one of those that's right in the middle. Are you going to try to claim another win and really just show everybody who's boss?
I'll try to. I didn't say North Wilkesboro when I was naming off tracks, but I haven't run there as much as I have these other tracks. I'll probably wait till the setup hits and hits the league, and definitely get some laps in and see what I can do with it.
Well, before I let you go, Mr. Cofield, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps get it done with you on the racetrack?
Oh yeah, man! I want to thank Podium and all y'all have done. Can't wait to go back and watch this awesome race. Jam Premium Promotions for sponsoring our truck series. Premier Racing Setups, of course, one of my sponsors. Like I said before, had an awesome setup tonight. Veterans for Life Foundation, Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, Red Bear Design Company, my sponsors, SM Racing Products. Go check them out. They got button boxes. Use code J Cofield to get 15% off. Cofield Asphalt Refinishing, Cofield Supply and Service, and all my teammates at Bandits.
That was Jonathan Cofield, driver of the 53, your first repeat winner here this season in the Goat Locker Racing Truck Series. And I believe that Scott has caught up with our second place finisher, Ryan Pendleton.
Well, Ryan, I've just first of all got to say, wow. I don't know if you've gone back and looked at it in the sim yet, but do you know how close it was between you and Jeremy Gardner there, man?
I don't know the time. We were just talking about it. It was definitely close. I enjoyed that last couple laps there.
Man, it was within 8/1000ths of a second. It was an absolute blast to watch from the booth. Joey was watching Cofield, but I was back here watching you and Jeremy Gardner there. What was it like in that battle there? Where'd you come from back in that last stint of the race?
Yeah, well, I mean, I came from about the middle of the pack because the first half of the race, that's where I was, and that's about where I should have been. Got caught some breaks there with some of those cautions. Kind of worked out for me. And then, yeah, I was just gonna, I tried to save tires early in the race. That wasn't working for me. And I was like, I was behind Cofield, and I knew how fast he was. I'm like, I'm gonna try to follow this guy, and that's pretty much what I did, and just drove as hard as I could at Iowa, and it ended up working out, and that was fun.
Do you think if you had a few more laps that you could have caught up to Jonathan there because you were absolutely flying?
I did feel good on that last run. I don't think so. I think him and Jeremy were the car to beat all night. Now, had they raced a little bit longer and we had a couple more laps and they stayed side by side, I was hoping to make it, like that cup finish at Atlanta last week. But I don't think I would have beat them, but I was just happy to have this Goat Locker truck up there tonight.
Well, Ryan, we see you sitting third in our Drivers' Championship points after your win just 2 weeks ago back at Watkins Glen. How does this, I know it's not a win, how does the second place finish make you feel about heading into the next 3 races before we get to our Drivers' Championship? I imagine it makes you feel pretty good.
For sure, anytime you can run up front with level of talent we have in this league is, makes you feel good. I love racing with those guys. It's always a good time, the whole league in general. So yeah, I mean, it's good confidence boost to come off a win and then finish second. But, just take it a week at a time and, try to keep getting up here in the podiums, hopefully win, and then the real game starts once we start the playoffs.
Well, Ryan, it was awesome to watch you tonight. Before I let you go, anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
Absolutely. We have a ton of partners at Goat Locker, but I'll start off with you guys. Thank you for the broadcast. It's awesome. Love going back and watching it. I know all the families and friends and supporters love it. Jam Printing and Promotions, they are the headline sponsor of the league. They're great. Do so much for us. Premier Racing Setups. I know a lot of the trucks out there tonight I was racing with have it all over there. The truck felt great tonight, so it's awesome to have their setups. Veterans for Life, as always, doing huge things for Goat Locker, and I always say it, more to come. So the league is growing. They're a big part of that. Cruise It Classics out of Columbus, Ohio is a huge part of that. Been with Goat Locker for a long time. Right Now Roofing is one of our new partners, so couldn't be happier to have them. And then Redbeard Design for all the cool logos. You might see one on my screen now. And everyone that comes out, supports, watches, donates. Just couldn't thank anyone enough that helps this league. So we're excited.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ryan. Everybody, that was Ryan Pendleton, your second place finisher. Now we're going to have Jeremy Gardner up with Joey.
Well, it's nice to have Jeremy in the booth here with us, albeit for a third place finish. Man, I thought you had that one. When did you feel it slipping out of the fingers?
What, 3 to go? I think I overdrove 3 and 4, and he gained about 2/10 on me, and I was like, well, there goes my race. I mean, I kind of figured it'd come down to about the last lap or 2 or whatever. I had like 8-10 lap old tires. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty happy with the finish though. Them tires held on great, and I was sending it every single lap. So it's what it is.
Well, I know I could sit here and talk about strategy all day. Now, was it kind of a curveball that you were throwing with that late race pit stop to come in for tires? Because you essentially forced everybody else onto that strategy.
Yeah, essentially, I'm an oddball with the strategy stuff. If I think it's gonna work, I think it's gonna work. So normally, I just go by what I think. I mean, I thought it was gonna work, and essentially, it was gonna work. But I think that one extra caution really just threw it out the window. But overall, that was fun. I thought I had it there with 3 to go, and then I just made a mistake over driving 3 and 4, and I just let him get 2/10 on me. Which, granted, he was still on newer tires, so I damn sure thought that was mine. But congrats to Cofield. That was a hell of a race. Me and him. It seems like every week now it's me and him and a couple others all at the front just battling super hard for the lead. So great race. Can't
And
complain.
it seems like you've got speed at a lot of different racetracks too. I know that you collected the win back there at Miami, the 1.5 miles. When we go to Kansas next, another 1.5 miles. Are you maybe looking at any of these other racetracks to join that 53 as a 2-time winner this season?
I'll be honest with you. I hadn't really looked at the schedule. I'll tell you, anytime I see a road course, you can count me out on that. Uh, mile
Well,
and a
good.
half.
We don't have any remaining of those, so you're good there.
Oh, yeah, then we're good then, because Watkins Glen, that was terrible. Nah, 1.5 miles short tracks. I mean, I'm pretty good at most of them, so I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll put on some good racing the rest of the year. I think we got a couple draft tracks coming up, a couple short tracks. So this season's just getting started. This is about to get it's about to get fun.
Well, like you were mentioning it, we can always count on you up there at the front battling. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, man. Just shout out to Pat and Jamie. This league is awesome. I couldn't ask for a better league. Shout out to y'all for putting on a great broadcast every single week. Jam Printing Promotions, Premier Racing Setups. That setup was spot on tonight. It was absolutely wonderful. Wasn't too tight, wasn't too loose. It was perfect. Veterans for Life Foundation. Jamie Perkins is part of that. I'd like to thank him for that. Had to bring out his paint scheme tonight. I don't know if y'all noticed, but I had to bring out the new paint scheme tonight. Been running the other one all season. Cruising Classics, Right Now Roofing, and Redbeard Design Company.
That was Jeremy Gardner, driver of the number 42, coming home in third place today. And Scott, I want to bring you back in here because we just wrapped up Iowa Speedway, and we've got quite a bit of strategy that we saw on the racetrack today. Very different than what we saw in previous weeks, but leading into next week, this was a total wild card. This was a different race for Goat Locker, and I loved seeing it.
It was absolutely different. I haven't known much of the past, but from what you told me, this one was definitely out of the blue, and I thought it provided amazing racing tonight. We saw an amazing end there with Cofield, with Garner, with Pendleton, with all of it. Man, I had a blast. I just loved being here, just love watching these guys, calling it with you, but what an excellent race that Go Locker put on and that all these drivers did.
Even though that we had that yellow flag out there, it was still great racing, and this is what you have to look forward to 1 week from today. Kansas Speedway right there on March 8th, so make sure to join us back here, and a huge thanks to those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan and Rachel Bauer, and thanks to the team today, Eddie, Scott, and Dougie. Remember, Friday, March 8th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, right here on Podium Esports. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you at the track.